Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope I'm audible to all of you. We will be starting in a minute. I know there are people waiting, so we'll be starting in a minute. Tolga, can you please confirm if I'm audible to you?
Yeah, it's okay. I can hear.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Tolga. Okay, since there are people already waiting, I would like to start on time only. I'll start with Abacus introduction because today we received overwhelming number of registrations, not only from Pakistan, but from the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, US, Egypt as well. So I would like to start with a very short Abacus intro, and then I'll hand over the stage to Tolga. So on behalf of Abacus Consulting, I would like to thank each one of you for taking your valuable time out to attend this session. Myself, I am Imran Rahmani. I head sales at Abacus LAS. Hope you people are doing well in these challenging times and staying positive and testing negative. That's very important these days. Few people could have anticipated the impact that COVID-19 pandemic is having on us. We are settling into this new reality with majority of companies either completely or partially working from home. I'm sure people have these challenges as well. Leading organizations embrace an intelligent, agile approach to opportunities and challenges is dynamic and economic environment. By digital processes and fostering customer centricity, total and business innovation, you can make supply chain planning more productive, responsive, and strategic. Today in this webinar, we will be talking about how you can ensure business continuity in times of supply chain disruption by synchronizing supply chain planning in real time by using SAP IBP. But before that, as I said, a very quick introduction about Abacus Consulting. Abacus Consulting, as you may be aware, is one of the largest SAP partners in Pakistan. Abacus has been in the consulting business for more than 30 years. We have 12 different practices, and SAP LAS is just one of them. Besides this, we are also into transformation solutions, cloud and emerging technologies, human capital solutions, strategy and corporate finance, business process outsourcing, human capital solutions, human resource outsectoring, etc. In Abacus LAS, that is services, we sell and implement SAP all-in-one, that is SAP S/4HANA. But apart from this, our focus is now also tilting towards emerging cloud technologies like SAP Ariba, SAP SuccessFactors, SAP Analytics Cloud, Integrated Business Planning, the session that we are having today, and C4HANA, the CRM. For some, Ariba, SF SuccessFactors, and SAP Analytics Cloud, we have built an in-house expertise. While for extremely popular products like SAP IBP and CX, we have tied up with the top SAP partners across the globe to build up our in-house expertise over a period of time. We have 2,500 plus people in our team, and we have more than 10 offices in 5 countries, namely UAE, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have office in UK. We have recently opened an office in US as well, and of course, we have offices across Pakistan in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. We have customers in the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and of course Pakistan across various industries like the DESCOs, oil and gas, fast-moving consumer goods, pharmaceutical, education, and the public sector as well. We plan a series of webinars in November and December on various SAP products. Some of you may have attended those webinars as well. Like, we had a webinar on SAP Ariba, Success Factors, and IBP. Today is the sixth of the seventh webinar that we plan. The last one will be held on 15th December, that is the coming Tuesday. And you will receive more information on that on our pages on LinkedIn and Facebook. So coming back to today's IBP session, I would like to introduce Mr. Tolga Buyuksarach from Innova, a leading software developer and integrator based out of Turkey. Tolga is a very senior SAP SCM and IBP consultant with 18 years of rich experience under his belt, with a demonstrated history of working in many SAP projects in several different manufacturing and service industries. I once again thank all of you for taking time out to attend this session, and I'm sure that you people are as excited as I am about SAP IBP sales and operation planning to learn about SAP IBP sales and operation planning from Tolga. Over to you, Tolga.
Yeah, thank you, Ilman. First of all, thank you everybody for joining this session. I hope you hear me clearly.
We can hear you clearly, Tolga.
Okay, great. And thank you for taking some time from your busy schedules, business schedules, and try to participate in the session. So today, as we said, we are going to cover what is sales and operations planning and how it is managed in SAP IBP. Okay, so let's start with the agenda. So I'm going to start with a short introduction of SAP IBP. So what is IBP actually, and which processes IBP covers? Very shortly, I'm going to introduce it. And then we are going to focus on SNOP process and how IBP help companies in their SNOP processes and how IBP help companies in managing this process. And then we have a small pause for questions, maybe before starting the demonstration, if you have some questions. Then I'm going to show a short demonstration of SNOP, the screens, the web screens, the Excel views, and how it is seen. And then at last, we have a question and answer part, and we'll finish, hopefully. Okay. So, what is SAP Integrated Business Planning? SAP Integrated Business Planning is SAP's supply chain planning solution for about 7 years. I think it's launched 7 years ago, and it will be the future of SAP supply chain planning solution portfolio. What is covered by IBP? It is, as you see from the screen, the backbone of the supply chain is the sales and operations planning, sales and operations process. Over the sales and operations process, just to feed that main process, we have the demand, we have the inventory, we have the response and supply processes. And over the top, in order to monitor what's happening in the supply chain, what about the KPIs and performance indicators, exceptions, alerts, and blah blah, this type of things. We use the supply chain control tower, which uses the supply chain organization model, the SCORE model outputs. So it is bringing a know-how actually to manage your supply chain. And with IBP, we can get answer to different levels of planning. First of all, the strategic planning, strategic level, which is starting from 1 year to 3 years or 5 years maybe. So it's a very, very long-term planning, and it's really a simulation-based planning. And we have the tactical level planning, which is much more operational. It is like 12 months or 12 to 16 months maybe. And generally it's monthly based or maybe weekly based. And at last we have the operational planning, which is the detailed one. It's a short and mid-term planning. And for all these three-level planning parts, IBP can answer to our requirements. But what is the most effective point here is it's a one harmonized data model. So the processes that we have mentioned are defined in one big model. So each process is integrated naturally with each other. So you don't have another system for production planning. You don't have another system for demand planning. It's only the IBP system, one system, and every data, every information is integrated in the system. So everybody keeps track of what's happening, what is planned, and can monitor and visualize the data from a central point of view. And of course, it's with IBP, it is easier to use the system. So you have the real-time insights, you have social collaboration platform called SAP. You can share your inputs, you can share your outputs, you can organize some kind of meetings, online meetings. You can create groups, tasks, and assign some people to do these tasks and this type of things. It's like a inter-company social media. So and also there is a process automation and management by exceptions in the system. So it's easier to use. It's much more easier to use than the other supply chain planning products. And it's much more smarter, of course. Why? Because especially with the improvements in the machine learning algorithms or the AI part, IBP started to use this type of algorithms in itself. So with the smart algorithms, especially in demand part or in supply part or alert and exceptions part, the system is now much more smarter and can guide the user to the right direction. And now it's much more faster. Why? Because of course, technology. It's used in the background. It's the in-memory technology and the design of the system. Because of the design or the structure in the behind, it makes the system runs much more faster. So makes the user to get some actions, fast actions according to the chains in the supply chain. So let's come to the some modules. Let's say, as I said, as a summary again, we have 5 different modules in IBP: the sales and operations plan, demand, inventory, response and supply, and at the top we have the control tower. So these are the 5 modules of IBP. Today we are going to focus on only the sales and operations part. Maybe in future we are going to also make a webinars for other modules as well. And what is the gain of customers when they implement SAP IBP? Actually, these are some statistical measurements, of course, coming for about measured by 7 years or something. So if you have implemented SAP IBP in a good way, of course, you may have, let's say, for example, inventory turns. It's between 5 or 10% increase in inventory turns. So stockouts or customer service levels increasing, or stockout situations decreased by on average 29% or something. Days of inventory, the stock holding your stock holding costs increase, and the revenue growth, you have some sort of revenue growth also. So these are the some statistical measurements that they have measured in past 7 or 8 years, who have implemented IBP actually. So as we said, IBP is the planning tool in SAP for supply chain planning now and for future. And today we are going to focus on the SNOP process. So what is SNOP actually? What we mean? What do we mean by saying sales and operations planning? Now we have also mentioned in the beginning, we have different planning terms or planning levels. It's starting with short term, and then mid term, and then long term. In the short term, of course, when we say short term, it's really short term. And here, the main question we ask is, how can we do? So here, they call them the firefighters or smoke, let's say, the firefighters or smoke jumpers, let's say, who tries to find some sudden actions or sudden solutions the to solve the small crisis, daily crisis, maybe. So here we don't make any tactical, we don't make any strategic level planning, but just to save the day actually if there are any problems. So this is the part where we ask the question, how can we do it? How can we solve it? And in the midterm, we now come to much more aggregate level or much more midterm level. So it's not daily problems we deal with here. It's much more monthly or annual problems. Maybe it's much more we deal with here. And the main question is, what can we do? So here, for example, we have for 12 months, we plan our rough cut capacity, and we plan our supplies, we plan our demand, and we want to see what will happen, or we make some simulations, and we want to see what will happen in 12 months if we go in that way, or if we go on in that way. So there are different scenarios, so we can select one of them. So it is much more aggregate level we can work here. And in the long-term plan, it is longer than the midterm level, of course, and it covers the plan in the outside of the lead time or outside of your frozen time fence. So it is like 1 year to 3 years maybe. It's much more longer. And here we have a strategic level planning here. So when we say SNOP, actually, it means some part of the midterm plan and to long-term plan. Sales and operations planning focus will be that planning horizon. And the rest, the short term and some part of the midterm is the response management. So it's the response planning. So we have much more maybe react to what happens in the supply chain. But in the sales and operations planning, we should act like proactively. It's not reactively, but proactively. And we say the total of it is the integrated business planning. So these processes, of course, deal with different planning horizons, but they are working in an integrated manner. So everything in one system. So what is integrated business planning? When we ask the academic definition or the definition of integrated business planning, we see that it's the extending the principles of the real SNOP process to deliver one seamless management process, actually. So we already know the SNOP process. It's defined in 1990s, and today it's still we have this SNOP process, but now the abilities or the borders of this SNOP process is somehow extended, and when it's extended, the much more functionality come into it, the financials come into it, the collaboration come into it, everything has in that process. So when it is like that, when it is in the extended format, we call it the integrated business planning. And the aim is to deliver one seamless management process, actually. And SNOP is the backbone of this process. Okay. So the SNOP process, what is SNOP when we say? It's a process led by senior management. It's not like it's a process for production planning department. It's not a process for procurement department or the supply chain department. It should be the owner of this SNOP should be the senior management level, and it starts from midterm to long-term planning horizon, and we do the time phase projections in SNOP process. Generally, the definitions in Oliver White or Tom Wallace definitions or APICS, supply chain organization, or IBF, which organization you check out, you may see that the general process is monthly defined in SNOP process, and it is built on the priorities of the enterprise. So and the horizon is nearly, it's like an average 2 fiscal years, you can say, maybe. It's starting from 1 year to 2 years, something like that. And SNOP deals with continuous change. So we don't live in a stable situation. Everything could change in the world. So it is the same for the supply chains, of course. So SNOP deals with this continuous change and tries to make the companies to proactively put some answers to regarding those chains in their supply chain. So it's like you can say it is a replanning process. So you are doing this SNOP planning each month. So in each month, you again recheck your demands, you recheck your supplies, you recheck your stockouts and performance KPIs and everything. So regarding considering the change in your supply chain or situation, you replan the process again each month. As we said, SNOP should be owned by top management. So it's like a general manager or CEO should be the owner of this SNOP process, because at the end of the process, the last step of SNOP process we are going to mention later is the top management review. So here, actually, the owner should get the answers from this process. So it should be the owner of the process, and SNOP addresses the management of key resources in the system. So like anticipated in the anticipated customer demands and expectations and new product development and company initiatives, they say. So the company resources, the let's say the bottleneck resources we need to view here. So it's not like we should plan all resources here in detailed view. It's not like that because it's an aggregate planning level. It's an aggregate planning type, and we need to only focus to our key resources. And last but not least, we can say that SNOP is a sophisticated simplicity resulting in organized common sense. So this is a good definition for SNOP maybe. It is simple to use, but it's sophisticated, and it gives a result in organized common sense. So everybody in the company should agree on the SNOP results. So it's such a process that at the end you come up with a consensus planning result. Okay, so why we have to do SNOP process? Why? I mean, generally companies do this process in their daily life, but they may not know what is the real effect of SNOP process. Some companies they cannot understand the real value. Maybe it's much how can I say, it's a struggling issue for them maybe. But when we come to the measurements, we see that on revenue, on operating costs, or utilization of resources and working capital, we have many impacts. We can see many impacts when we have a major sales and operations process in our company. I'm not going in details about this, but this is some statistics that are measured by companies. So let's come to the what we call the closed loop in SNOP process. The SNOP process actually consists of 5 different steps. The first step is the product and portfolio planning. Here, the product and portfolio planning, we ask these questions: where are we in the product life cycle? Where are we in the market? Or how are our product families performing compared to projections? How are the products are going? What are the performances? Are there any new products? Should we launch new products? Blah blah. So this type of questions should get their answers in the product and portfolio review. So first of all, we should try to draw our set of products. So what are we going to deal with? What are our products? So this is the first question that we should get answered from the SNOP process. And the consensus demand planning. We know our products now, and we have to come up with a demand quantity, demand consensus quantity. Why? Because this will trigger our supply plan, and we are going to see what will happen, or our capacities will they be enough to produce this much of demand. So first of all, we need to find the demand here for our future. But when we ask the demand, of course, from different part of companies, different subsidiaries, different departments, like finance, like marketing, like sales, like manufacturing, or SNOP, or let's say supply chain department, all may give different answers. For example, finance can say we have a budget for 300 pieces to sell, but marketing can say that no, we have a promotion, we are going to make a promotion, so our target is 400. And sales can say that, much more optimistic maybe, no, we can sell 500 because we are close to customer and we know what they want, so we can sell 500 maybe. But what about production? Production can say that no, it's not 500, 400, 300. We can only produce 150. So we all put our capacities according to that number. But the question is, which is the right number? I mean, which should be the right number to trigger our operational life? So actually what should be done in demand review is to gather all that information in one place, one platform, and try to find the consensus. Okay, so all inputs are available here. Of course, one input also is the statistical forecasting. With the IBP capabilities, with the IBP functionalities, you can make some forecasts. You can make some forecasting outputs using some basic and advanced statistical forecasting methods. So manual inputs, statistical forecasting inputs, sales inputs, marketing inputs, all the inputs are valuable here. So last year's sales quantities, last 3 years sales quantities, monthly trends, seasonal effects, everything is valuable here. So we all gather them, we all have in the system, and we all gather them in one platform. So the user can say that, okay, this will be our consensus demand based on all this information. We need to go on with that demand plan. Of course, there could be alternative scenarios, and analyzing the results in the alternative coming from the alternative scenarios, they can select the best option for their company. And when it's come to the end, we have the consensus demand. So consensus means consensus. That's clear. I mean, no one can say that I don't accept this demand. It's not for me. Because when we say consensus, it means that everybody should agree on it. And we come to constraint supply plan or supply plan, let's say. Here we have the demand. Now we put this demand. We have the unconstrained demand. And we put this demand on our constraint capacity. And we see how much of our demand could be produced with our current capacities. Here, of course, again, we measure the resource utilizations, we manage the capacities, we check the procurement plans for raw materials or other things. So at the end, we say that, okay, we get this demand from the demand review, we put it on our capacities in our network, in our supply chain, and we say that, okay, we can cover this demand with our current capacities. Or we can say that, no, we cannot cover this capacity, cover the demand 100%. We can cover it 80%, 20%. We need to increase our capacity, or we need to use some kind of subcontracting, or we need to delay the demand, for example, or we need to produce it earlier if we have some capacity in earlier times. So this will be the decision for the next demand and supply balancing part. So we call this demand and supply balancing part the reconciliation review. So here we have the demand plan, we have the supply plan, and we match them together. We put them on together, and if there are any inconsistencies between them, if we cannot satisfy all the demand, or if we have too many, let's say, idle capacity, maybe we should increase the demand. We should find some way to increase the demand, make some promotions, make some advertisement or other things. Or if we have too much stock out possibility because of not enough capacity we have, then maybe we should find some solution to decrease the demand, maybe, or to find some way to increase the capacity. So this is actually the part that many simulations should be done, including the financial key figures also. So each scenario should give us, okay, the capacity usage, the satisfied demand ratio, but on the other side, we need to see our revenue, planned revenue, of course, planned costs and planned profit. So these are the outputs of this reconciliation review. And at the end, we come to the management, the last step, the management review, top management review. There, for each scenario, for example, we have created in that part, we need to put some supporting documentation in order to guide the management, or show the management, top management, clearly what is the situation in that scenario, what is the situation in the other scenario. So the executive review is the last step for SNOP process. The KPI, of course, it shouldn't be like 5 hours meeting, or it shouldn't be like 300 slides PowerPoint presentations or something. It should be just very short, clear, and just address the right points in the company or in the plans, and guide the top management to approve, in order to make them to give better decisions. So we should give some recommendations. We should put the KPIs, different scenarios, results, and everything, and let them to decide. And at the end, we have the approved plan to be released to execution. So we have, at the end of the supply plan, SNOP process, we have the consensus demand, consensus supply plan, and we publish it to the company, and everybody is agreed on it and try to reach the target. Okay, and this is the last slide that I want to show for this process. So here, when we think about the maturity curve, we have the maturity level for each process. We have the organization level, we have technology, process focus metrics, and outcome. So as in the stage 1, we are in the beginning of the beginning of our, let's say, SNOP life, let's say. When we come to stage 2, we have in stage 1 we have much more react position, but in stage 2 we have much more anticipate. Then we have the integrate the different processes. Then in step 4, stage 4, we now have the collaboration with suppliers or customers, and at the end, the last step, the mature level, the last mature level is when we come to orchestrate the process actually with, and this could be done with IBP. And yeah, so our aim is start from the beginning and come to this stage 5 level within our company. So this is the SNOP process that we call. And now, how IBP help us in that process? What are the problems actually we during this type of process without IBP or without this type of software? What were the problems? We can't plus across the organization in time, because we are dealing with too many data. We are dealing too many locations, too many plants, too many customers, too many suppliers, too many resources. So to gather them up in a short period, it takes some time. So it's hard to do it. We don't have the right information sometimes, because since if we don't use any central based platform like IBP, everybody is working in their Excels, in their own platform. So the data is coming with emails or by telephone or from WhatsApp, I don't know. So there could be too many manual interruptions or too many manual mistakes. So we don't have the right information, and it can't easily test assumptions. We cannot test the assumptions easily, because since we spend our time to have the right information, or to have the right information in time, we don't have enough time to test the assumptions, or we don't have the time to test the scenarios or different versions. So with that situations, we cannot use our 100% capacity to build a good SNOP result. So what at the end we miss the quarter, for example, or we miss the customer requirements. We cannot satisfy our demands. We can lose the market, or we can miss a growth opportunity maybe. So IBP actually here comes to help us, and IBP is a subscription-based platform. It's a cloud-based platform, and it is working on SAP HANA platform, and it could integrate with any ERP system or CRM system, SAP or non-SAP systems, or even Excel files or other files. We can integrate. It's some sort of ETL integration platform called CPIDS, and the outputs are shared in the user interface as an Excel view. So the users are using Excels, or they can use their web analyze web browsers, or even they can use their mobile platform, mobile devices in order to see the data or edit the data or manage the data. So you remember this closed loop. So IBP, actually this 5 steps is as we call the backbone of the supply chain, or the IBP, which is called SNOP process. With IBP, we put the advanced demand techniques on it. We put the inventory optimization and supply optimization on it, and we put the scenario analysis and financial analysis on it. So everything is in one system. So the main flow is in the middle, and the other modules support or feed this main process. So this is actually the main structure of IBP and the SNOP. Okay, so some are additional functionalities in SNOP. It's real-time planning and simulation. We work with real-time data, and we can make any type of simulations easily. We can create scenarios on the fly. We can create versions and everything. We can compare them. We can make collaboration. We can make a collaboration with our suppliers. Since it's a web-based platform, we can give some permissions, some authorizations to our customers or to our vendors to modify some plans. For example, we can share our plans with them, and we want them to make their comments on it. So what is the aim for this? The target is to reach much more realistic output from the SNOP process. So much more realistic, much more reliable. And we have advanced analytics and graphics we use. I'm going to show it on the demonstration also. And that's all actually. So when we make a summary, if you want to make a summary, we can say that SNOP is a process starting from the product and portfolio review, coming to demand review, supply review, supply and demand balancing, and at the end we come to the top management review, and we finish the process. So that's all actually for the presentation for me. Now I'm going to show demonstration to you, but if you have any questions, I can take some questions now, if you have.
So we have a lot of questions, but we understand that we're also short of time. So I'll pick some of the most relevant ones. Okay. The first question is SAP IBP for sales and operations planning, is this a licensed product or does it come as a standalone?
Uh, IBP modules, as I told, there are 5 different modules in IBP. Each module could be licensed separately and could work standalone. So, for example, as a company, you can only buy IBP SNOP, for example, or you can only buy IBP demand or IBP supply. So, or you can buy both of them, or 3 of them, or 5 of them. So it depends on what is your requirements actually. But the best practice, if you want to implement all IBP picture, then the right starting point is the SNOP part, because it's as I said, it's the backbone of the supply chain process. You build it and then you put the others on it. So the best practice is to start with SNOP and then, according to the requirements, maybe demand and supply, or supply and demand, and then inventory, and then control tower. This could be the recommended implementation flow. So, okay, if there are no other questions, then we can start the demonstration. So just a minute. Yeah, okay. Can you see my screen now?
We can see that.
Yeah, okay. So the process actually begins with some review or dashboards. Actually, the users in IBP, they keep track of the process from their dashboards. For example, the demand plan review. Let's take a look closer to it. Here we have, you see, we have the demand plan review screen or dashboard. Here we can define the process starting from, let's say, product portfolio review and demand plan and commercial plan and consensus demand plan. And this is the demand plan, detailed demand plan process. We can define each SNOP process in IBP as a workflow, and everybody can see from their dashboards how it is going on. So here, for example, it hasn't started yet. This is finished. This is completed, and this task is not finished yet. So we have in the statistical forecasting part. So everybody can keep track of this SNOP process from their dashboards. The supply planner or the demand planner or the product planner, everybody. And when the step comes to their part, for example, when it comes to the supply planning part, the supply planner is automatically warned by the system or by a notification. So it says that, okay, you can start your supply planning process because the demand plan review is finished. This is the consensus demand. So the supply planner then starts to plan according to this demand. So each step can trigger the the other step accordingly. And everybody, every role, let's say the supply planner, demand planner, or the product planner, or for this reconciliation review, let's say we can build different dashboards. So in the dashboard, we can see what we want. So everything, every data is stored in the background. And here, for example, we have these are the 5 detailed steps of demand plan. So here, for example, we have missing demands forecast for MPI, new product introduction, and demand forecast by life cycle status or commercial plan quantity. So consensus demand, baseline demand, for example, and by comparing the other also demand plan, sales forecast plan, marketing plan, consensus baseline demand, final promotion, and blah blah. So this, for example, this is for month 4, and this is for April, and you can keep track of each data, each number, and compare them with each other. And also we can see project consensus plan, revenue versus corporate targets. Let's say if we have some corporate targets, if we have some budget for sales, so we can just compare the plan that we do now with the budget that we have done in the starting of the year, or our corporate targets, or our strategic targets. So are we on the track, or are we out of the track, or are we back of the, are we in the back, are we let's say back of the point that where we want, let's say. So here this dashboard can guide the user in order to make some actions actually. So this is for example demand review, but we have also, let's say, supply plan review. Of course, in the supply plan review we have different information. It's shifts per day, let's say weekly available capacity, for example, we can see here. Capacity per shift, resource efficiency, capacity availability, and blah blah. And capacity demand versus capacity availability. For example, if you are overload or if you are not, if you have too much idle capacity or not, we can see. And we have different formats for analytics here, like heat map, for example, capacity utilization. They say the dark red ones are the ones that are overloaded, for example. The red ones are the ones that are possible to be overloaded. And when the color gets lighter, the workload is going down. So in one look, just one look, the user can understand where are the problem, what is the bottleneck resources we have. Also, weekly estimated production costs. We can put the costs, or we can take aggregated analytics here, or we can use a world map where, so we can select the location here and we can see the key figure, for example, results here. We can see the, let's say, anything we want here, actually the revenue, the production utilization, capacity utilization, or demand satisfaction, performance, whatever you want. And also, let's say we have the SNOP review. So as I said, according to your needs, according to your requirements, you can define any type of dashboard here. So here, for example, we have sales forecast revenue by region, gross profit by region. So gross profit for these regions, you can see. And also again, on a map, we can see the different working capitals or different informations here. So this is the dashboard where the user can check and monitor what's happening, what is the results, what's coming in as an input, what should be our targets is. So he or she can keep track of the events from this dashboards. Now the other part is where we hands-on make the planning is the Excel views actually. So just a minute. Let me share my screen. Okay, now this is the Excel. This is a sample for Excel view. Here, this is a supply planning view. We have the customer demand. We have consensus demand adjusted and customer receipts. So we run the capacity plan, and we have this result here. So we can also use the graphical interface, graphical functionalities of Excel here. And here we have, when we start to use IBP in Excel, we have an add-on built here, and some buttons come to our screen to Excel, and we manage the process from here. So we select our favorites. If we are supply planner, we select supply planning, or if we are the demand planner, we use demand consensus demand plan, for example. Or if we are making a long-term plan, we just select the long-term plan, and long-term plan is open, so we see it. So this is where we manage the data. Actually, it's the Excel, and of course, since it's Excel, we can use the Excel functionalities here, like formulas, as you see, like graphics. So it's very useful for the user. Now I opened the long-term planning sheet in the Excel. So, but just remember, this is only the interface of IBP. I mean, Excel is used only for interface. The data is not stored in Excel files. The data is stored in the database or in cloud, actually. So when you log on from here, you just get the data from cloud, and IBP uses Excel to view the data. And then when you press the save data, it is saved to cloud again. But sometimes of course, you can make some simulations. Like here, for example, we have finance review plan, and we have the price here. So we have the revenue here. So we can say that when I change this, or when I change this one, I want to see the actions, or I want to see the results or affected key figures with that change. So before, but I don't want to save this data, or I don't want to change the data, just make a simulation. We just come here and simulate it. When we say that, we can do this for capacity planning, we can do this for forecasting, we can do this for any type of modification on the data. So the system automatically tries to change the data here. No, I think there's a connection problem now. Okay, just to make you understand the process, when we put the simulate button, we see the effect here to change the, let's say here for the total revenue. For example, when I change the price, it changes the total revenue. And also, as I said, we can create scenarios here. We can have different scenarios. For example, in-house regular capacity only, in-house regular expansion capacity, or contractor, subcontractor capacity, or maintenance, capacity over maintenance, or mixed strategies, or anything you can create. So when you create a new scenario here, the data is automatically copied into the new scenario. So for example, when I say create, Sorry, this is we have the time level here. So when I say create, we create one scenario here, and then we can promote it to the real life scenario. So these are the scenarios, but these are draft plans. So when I promote it, it now begins to be the real plan. So during the reconciliation review, especially, we can create different scenarios, and then we can promote it and select the one, of course, select the one and promote it to the real situation. And we can easily duplicate the scenarios here, so it's very easy to create. And also we can run the algorithms, the forecasting, the optimization, anything according to our authorization. We can run the planning algorithms here. And if we have some alerts, we can see the alerts here. For example, here it says there's a capacity overload alert in the long-term plan, or we have a demand cost exceeds the budget costs, for example. And so these are defined manually. So we can say I want to have a alert when if there's a capacity overload. So when there's a capacity overload, you get this alert in the Excel and you directly go to this long-term plan page just to see where is the capacity problem actually. Let's check the results here. For example, we have all overloads we can see. So shortly, in a short period, I can show you maybe this much, but maybe later I can show much more detailed demonstrations I can do. But as a result, we have two different platforms that we use IBP. One platform is the dashboard or the web browser we use, or the mobile platforms, or we have the Excel that we see the data, change data, or run anything as an end user. So this is how we manage or use IBP. So now we come to our come to the end of our presentation and demonstration today. So thank you for listening to me. And now if we have any questions, we can take in a short period.
Tolga, we have. Are you able to hear, Tolga?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, okay. So Tolga, we have a lot of questions actually, but in view of the shortage of time, so we'll pick and choose only a few of them. The first question is, what should be the implementation strategy for implementing SAP IBP?
Okay, implementing strategy, as I mentioned before, it's better to start with SNOP process, because SNOP process builds the main structure of supply chain planning process in a company in a much more basic view. So in SNOP process, we don't have advanced or complex algorithms or advanced statistical algorithms or machine learning parts or other things. So it is just the process definition, and we build the process and we start using it. So after some time, we can say, okay, now we have a good mature SNOP process. Now we can go or improve our, let's say, demand process. So let's start the IBP demand or make some forecasting, make some use of advanced techniques, and improve our forecast accuracy. And then we can say that maybe yes, we have now a major SNOP process, but we want to improve our supply results. So we want to improve our supply capacity utilization, or we want to use the efficiency in the production, or this type of things. So we want to make a optimization, for example, in supply planning. So we can implement supply then. So generally the strategy could be starting from the base part and putting over it. So, but sometimes companies say that no, we don't need SNOP process, we don't need demand process, we don't need any other things. We just need an optimization. But this is a wrong it's a wrong decision, I think. Because why? Because it is if you are only focused on optimization, if you only focus on mathematical output, then it's not an IBP. It's not IBP actually, because for example, for forecasting, if you say I only want IBP just for forecasting, then IBP is maybe 15% of IBP is forecasting, because the rest of it is the process, the demand management process or demand planning process. It's not only the forecast, as I mentioned in the presentation. Different partners are enabling, or different partners are gathering in the demand review. So there are some rules you should apply. There are some controls. There are some alerts. You should manage the process. It's not only making. It's not only running an algorithm and creating a forecast. And it's same for the optimization. No, none of the optimization results is used in practical life in 100%, because we don't need, for example, if we aim the minimum costed supply plan, this does not mean it's a mathematical minimum. It means it's a reasonable minimum. Okay, so it's not only the optimization, it's not only the forecasting, it's not only some algorithmic calculations. So it's the process. So since it is like that, we need to first of all build the process, build the SNOP process, and over the top, then if you want to improve our results, then we can go on with supply, or we can go on with demand, and what we want to improve actually. Any other questions?
Another question, I think I'll be able to answer that. This question has to say, how many organization in Pakistan has opted for SAP IBP? The only company in Pakistan that has opted for IBP is Indus Toyota Motors, and they have signed the deal with Abacus Consulting. So with that, Smita. Tolga, another question for you is, can a customer input their forecast in the SNOP? Customers'
Yes.
demand, customer numbers.
Yeah, I mean, if in SNOP, as I mentioned again, we can get data from any source. We can get data from a customer. We can, if we are saying the customer, then we can, for example, share our system with customers. For example, let's say we are a FMCG company and we have some key accounts or market chains, key accounts, big markets. So those big structures, big markets have their own planning actually itself, have their own forecast, have their own promotions, everything. So we are the vendors for them, and we put our products on their shelves and they are now selling it. So when we make a forecast, if we share it with them and if we want them to comment on this, so maybe they can say that, okay, you forecast 1,000 pieces for this product, but next 3 months, I'm going to make a promotion or an insert activity or an advertisement for our markets, let's say. So we assume that your products, let's say, sales will grow 10% higher. So they give this feedback to you. If you don't talk with the customer, or if you don't share it, if they don't share it in the system, then you don't know this. You don't know this information. So you just say, okay, I'm going to sell 1,000 pieces. But when they want much more, then you will be stock out. So, but if you don't share your system with them, then of course they can maybe send you an email or an Excel sheet. Then it's easily uploaded into SNOP, or if you have it already in your ERP system somehow, then we can take the data, or IBP can read it from the from your ERP system easily. So yes, we can put any customer forecast data in the system besides the one that we have calculated statistically.
So, Tolga, another question is, how long does it take to implement SAP IBP sales and operations planning?
Actually, it depends on the customer's maturity level, as I mentioned again in the presentation. If the customer is aware of the SNOP process, if the company is aware of the SNOP process, if the top management, if the end users, and if there's a culture like that in the company, then it's very easy to implement SNOP process in the company. It takes maybe maximum 3 months or something. But if they're in the very beginning, in stage 1, let's say, then it should take some time, because it will be a very new process for the company. So somehow it will take time to adapt to that system. So so during this project, maybe they don't have the right master data, they don't have the right forecasting to feed the SNOP process, they don't have the right knowledge or right trained users, let's say, to use that system. So these are all some other constraints during the project. So these constraints may lead to longer project times, but maximum, I believe, it won't be much more than 6 months, 6 or 7 months, maximum. So we could say that it depends on the customer. It could be between 3 months or 6 months or something for SNOP.
Sure. So I think we still have a lot of questions, but we are also over the time by almost 15 minutes now. So let us wrap this up. It's been wonderful having such an amazing audience with us today, as well as having an excellent presenter and a subject matter expert like Tolga. So if more questions are there, we'll ensure to address them by email and all that. So thank you once again, Tolga. Thank you to the audience, and goodbye.
You're welcome. Goodbye. Thank you.